Hello, my name is Mrs. Keitel. I am the art teacher here at Wickham Elementary as well as Alexander Elementary, and today we're going to do a quick video on how we can transfer our plans for metal foiling onto the metal today. So last week we made our plans. We're going to see some images of kind of how that worked. And then today we're going to be taping down and using our foil, our plans, and then a piece of cardboard to transfer these over. So we've got just a couple little techniques that we're going to go over today, but our main goal is to get our entire design traced and maybe get some of those finer details and textures added in. So here we go. When you get started today, you're going to want to make sure that you have completed your entire plan. Now, when we did these last time, it was really important that we made sure that we drew out a 5" by 5" box, because that is the size of the foil you're going to be receiving today. So double check that. If you haven't, you can see the piece of foil fits over the top, even though we will be adding it to the back. Our requirements were that we were doing something that had to do with spring. This could go with any kind of theme or any kind of concept that you are doing, but I thought of spring thinking of my cat Mabel and how she loves to hang out on our porch and some things that would be going on in the background. I have her on our deck with a little scene. You had the option of doing a scene from nature or just doing simple patterns or designs in your background. So whatever you chose, you're going to be doing today. I need to grab my piece of cardboard here. Sorry for the delay. But the reason why we need the cardboard is we need something soft that is separating our paper and our metal from the table. Otherwise, when we press into it, it's not going to get the same effect. So what you're going to use today is our paper, metal. We'll start out with a pencil. Everyone will get a little bit of tape today to attach their metal to the back to prevent any movement. And then we'll just briefly see how we will start off with some of our tools to make some more texture and prints into our metal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my paper over. I can see through my paper fairly well, so I'm just going to line up my metal to my 5" by 5" box, and then I'm going to tape it down. I feel one piece of tape is pretty adequate, but if you're someone who would really want it to be secure, you could use 2. Only thing about using 2 is then you've got both sides secure and it'll be harder to check as you go. So it's up to you how you want to do that. But once you get your metal taped down to the back, you're going to start tracing. Now, we don't need the sharpest pencil out of the bin for this today. As long as it has a good sturdy point, it should get the job done. So I will start tracing. And what I'm doing is I'm going over all the lines that are important and need to be seen on my metal, which really should be every line of your design. We spent a whole class planning these, so I would expect that everyone today is doing their best. I'm going to start with my cat and do a little bit of the details in the background. I'm not going to go too much further into this today because I want you to have, oh, broke my pencil. That's another reason we don't want the sharpest pencils in the bin. Let me grab another one. Oftentimes our pencils break because maybe our cardboard isn't as soft as we think it is. So if we need to get a little newspaper, we can do that as well. But I'm going to start going. Thanks for your patience on me having to run away from my camera twice already. Hopefully we don't have any other little mishaps. But I'm tracing along. I can use a decent amount of pressure because this is metal. And we're using 38 gauge metal, which means it is pretty sturdy and pretty strong within what we're doing today. Trace all the way around, some nice even pressure. The metal is also pretty forgiving, so if you trace something you really didn't mean to, you can always kind of adjust as we continue on. But you're going to get that whole thing done. And again, you can kind of peek as you go. You can see my cat is starting to get into my metal here. I'm going to do a little bit of the wooded porch here, and then I will show you the next step. So I'm not going to do my whole background like you would be doing before moving on to the next step, just so you have a little more time with this today. Okay, now I had some nice wood designs, so I want to make sure I'm pretty consistent on those. I'm going to start with all of my little wood grain spirals first. And then I'll come back in and do the lines of the wood. Now once you get your entire thing traced, we can leave our paper taped on and kind of flip it over, that is fine. Or you can remove it. It's up to you, your preference of how you're working. But you'll be able to see how you've transferred a lot of your design. So I'm just gonna keep my paper attached and flip it over and move into some of my tools. Now we have these different, they're called Kemper tools. Some are very round, others have a little bit of a pointed edge, nothing too pointy. We don't want to stab our metal or go through it completely. Some of the edges also are just nice and round or have a little bit of a point for you today. So whatever seems to be your preference. Once you get to it, you're going to start really pushing in. And this is going to be to start defining the shapes of our wood, or I'm sorry, our metal, using these little wooden tools. And we want to start seeing some different effects. So maybe you want to see some effects that are a little more round. Maybe you want to see something that's a little more bumpy, maybe a little more ridged. So on my cat, I have some round details, and my texture and my background I might want a little bumpy. And then also this ridged effect is where we're really gonna feel on our metal these different areas. So I'm just gonna go through and start to push and add some pressure and some texture here. I'm gonna really focus on my outline first, and then I will come in with either sides of my tools and kind of think about how I would want my cat's body to look and to feel. I know my cat is fluffy and soft, and metal is not fluffy and soft. So I have to kind of give that illusion with my texture and how I do this today. So our goal is to go from our plans that we created last week to our metal by tracing our entire design. Then we're going to use our wooden tools to come in and start really adding the dimension, the texture, and some of these round, bumpy, or ridged kind of looks and feels. If you have any questions today, please feel free to ask. This is going to be kind of experimental for a lot of you, so just do your best and see how it goes today before we really get frustrated. Just know that metal is not the easiest and the most workable sometimes, but the more you give it your attention and the more that you work on it, the better it will look. You can always check out both sides too and see how the ridges are going. But we will continue on with this. We will get a little more insight as we go, and today your goal is to go from your plan to your metal. Please work really hard today. Get as much done as you can, and we will move on to our next step next week.